The night shift at Earth's orbital command station was usually quiet. Commander sat at her console, watching the endless stream of data from deep space sensors. She had been doing this job for 6 years, and most nights were the same. Ships coming and going, trade signals, weather reports from the colonies, nothing exciting. Then everything changed. A red light flashed on her screen. Sat up straight. The ancient emergency protocol was activating, something that hadn't happened since before she joined the service. Her hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to understand what was happening. The signal was weak and broken. It came from far away, from a region of space called the Epsilon Veil Sector. Knew that area was controlled by the Empire, a powerful alien civilization that humans had only heard stories about. They kept to themselves and didn't welcome visitors. She routed the signal to the main screen. Static filled the air, then a face appeared. It was alien, with large eyes and skin that seemed to glow faintly. The creature looked terrified. "Anyone, please," the voice said in broken Universal Standard, the common language used for space communication. "Destroys, we are last, help us." The transmission cut out, played it again, her heart pounding. Someone out there needed help. Someone was dying. She immediately contacted her superior officer. Within an hour, the message had reached Admiral, the highest-ranking military commander in Earth's space forces. By morning, every important person in Earth's government was watching that same desperate face asking for help. Admiral sat in his office, replaying the message for the 20th time. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in the Belt Wars, had seen friends die in the cold of space. He knew what war meant. His aide brought him more information. The alien species called themselves the. According to what little data existed, they were a peaceful civilization. They had art, music, and beautiful cities. They had never bothered anyone. The Empire had invaded them anyway. Reports said they were destroying worlds one by one, enslaving the survivors. 12 planets had already fallen. Only one colony remained. Called an emergency meeting of the Unified Council. Politicians, military officers, and civilian representatives filled the room. They all watched the distress signal together. "We cannot get involved," said one politician. "The Empire is huge. They have thousands of ships. We barely have 100 spread across all our colonies." "We don't even know if this is real," another added. "It could be a trap." "We have our own people to protect," a third argued. "Earth comes first." Admiral listened to them all. He understood their concerns. They were not wrong to be afraid. The Empire had conquered dozens of civilizations. Humanity was young in the galaxy, still learning, still growing. A war with them could mean the end of everything humans had built. Then stood up, She was a civilian representative, a woman in her 50s who had survived the Mars colony raids 26 years ago. She had lost her husband and daughter in that attack. "I remember when Mars called for help," she said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew her story. "The pirates came without warning. They killed thousands. Earth sent ships, but it took 3 days. 3 days of waiting, hopping, watching people die. When the rescue fleet finally arrived, I was one of 50 survivors out of 2,000 colonists." She looked around the room. "I know what it feels like to send a distress call and wonder if anyone will come. These people, they sent their message across half the galaxy. They don't know us. They don't know if we care. But they asked anyway because they had no other choice." His voice grew stronger. "We are humanity. We received an SOS. That has to mean something. If we ignore this, if we turn away, then what are we? What kind of people become?" The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral stood. "The civilian representative is right," he said. "We cannot ignore this. I won't order anyone to fight, but I'm asking for volunteers. We need ships, crews, weapons, everything. I'm putting together a fleet." "Admiral, you could be starting a war we cannot win," one of the politicians warned. He nodded, "Maybe, but we're going to try anyway." Over the next 48 hours, something incredible happened. Ship captains volunteered. Crews signed up. Engineers worked around the clock to prepare vessels for combat. The Third Fleet, Earth's reserve force, was activated and enhanced with volunteer ships. 23 capital ships, 40 destroyers, hundreds of support vessels. It was the largest military operation humanity had ever attempted. In the shipyards orbiting Earth, workers rushed to load weapons and supplies. The fleet would need everything: food, fuel, ammunition, medical supplies. They were going into unknown territory to fight an enemy they had never faced. Captain stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the preparations through the viewport. His ship was humanity's and most powerful vessel, a dreadnought-class warship built with the best technology Earth could produce. Was 40 years old, a veteran of border conflicts and pirate raids. He had a reputation for unconventional thinking. When other captains followed the book, wrote his own rules, his crew loved him for it. His second officer, lieutenant, approached with a data pad. She was young, only 26, but brilliant. "Captain, I've run the combat simulations," she said. "The numbers are not good." "Show me," said. Pulled up the tactical display. The forces in the Epsilon Vale sector alone outnumbered the human fleet 3-1. Their ships had better shields, better sensors, and weapons humanity didn't fully understand. "We're outmatched," said simply. Smiled. "On paper, yes. But wars aren't won on paper, Lieutenant. They're won by people who refuse to quit." Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Minyu was making final preparations. He had been working on something special, something the wouldn't expect. Old nuclear pulse technology, refined and improved. The kind of primitive weapons that advanced civilizations had abandoned thousands of years ago. But primitive didn't mean ineffective. Sometimes the old ways worked best. Admiral gave the final order 3 days after receiving the distress call. The Third Fleet formed up in Earth orbit, a magnificent sight. Hundreds of ships, ready to jump into the unknown. Broadcast to every vessel. We go to answer a distress call from people we've never met. We go because it's right. Let's show the galaxy what humanity stands for. The fleet engaged their quantum slip drives. Space twisted around them, and they vanished into the darkness. 3 weeks to Epsilon Vale, 3 weeks to war. The Third Fleet traveled through quantum slip space, where normal physics didn't apply. The ships moved faster than light, crossing distances that would take years in just weeks. Inside the vessels, crews prepared for battle. On the UES Indomitable, Captain walked through the corridors, checking on his people. He made it a point to know everyone by name. There were 1,200 crew members on his ship, and each one mattered. He found Private in the weapons bay, cleaning one of the mechanisms. The young man looked nervous. "First time going into real combat?" asked. Nodded. "Yes, sir. I trained for this, but training isn't the same as the real thing." "No, it's not," agreed. He sat down next to the private. "You know why we're going, right? Why we're doing this?" "To help the sir." "That's right. Remember that when things get hard, we're not fighting for territory or money. We're fighting because someone asked for help, stood and put a hand on shoulder. You'll do fine. Trust your training and trust your crew." In the medical bay, Doctor was organizing supplies with her team. She was a serious woman who had served in the Belt Wars alongside Admiral. She knew what combat meant. She had seen the broken bodies, the burns, the injuries that no amount of medicine could fix. "We need more surgical kits," she told her assistant. "Double what we have, maybe triple." "Are you expecting heavy casualties?" the assistant asked. Looked at him. "I'm expecting we'll need to save as many people as possible, prepare for the worst and hope for the best." Down in engineering, Chief Minyu was making final adjustments to his experimental weapons. The nuclear pulse bombs were ready, stored in special launch tubes. Each one carried the explosive power of an old atomic bomb, but was designed to be fired like a missile. A lieutenant came to inspect the weapons. "Will they work?" she asked. Minyu grinned. "In theory, yes. In practice, we'll find out soon enough." "That's not very reassuring." "War never is, Lieutenant." Minyu wiped grease from his hands. "But I'll tell you this. The use energy shields right. They've built their whole defense system around stopping plasma and laser weapons. They probably haven't seen a good old-fashioned explosion in 1,000 years. Understood. Sometimes the technology wasn't always the best. Sometimes old methods worked when fancy ones failed. Halfway through their journey, the fleet received another transmission. This one came from inside space, from a resistance group that was still fighting. Admiral watched the message on the bridge of his flagship. The transmission showed a fighter, his luminescent skin flickering with colors that translated as fear and determination. "Human fleet, we detected your approach," they said. "I am Keeper Ren. We lead the resistance on Prime. They have destroyed 12 of our worlds. Only our home planet remains. They are gathering ships for a final assault. We have days, perhaps only hours." The transmission showed images of devastation. Beautiful crystal cities reduced to rubble. People being loaded onto prison ships, extraction facilities where they harvested bioenergy from living, killing them slowly to power their vessels. Felt anger rising in his chest. This wasn't war. This was extermination. "They have enslaved thousands of our people," Keeper Ren continued. "The prison complex on our southern continent holds 50,000 souls. If you truly come to help us, please hurry. We are running out of time." The transmission ended. Immediately called a meeting with his command staff. Captain attended via video link from the Indomitable. Other ship captains joined as well. They all looked grim. "The situation is worse than we thought," said. "We're not just stopping an invasion, we're stopping a genocide." "What are our orders, Admiral?" asked. "We proceed as planned. We reach Prime, we engage any forces, and we protect the people." Looked at each captain. "I won't lie to you. This is going to be harder than we expected. We're probably going to lose ships. We're definitely going to lose people, but we're going anyway." "Understood, sir," the captains said in unison. Over the next week, the fleet trained constantly. Combat drills, damage control exercises, medical simulations. Everyone needed to be ready. In the mess hall of the Indomitable, crew members gathered during off hours. They talked, played cards, and tried not to think too much about what was coming. Private sat with a group of other young soldiers. "Do you think we can win?" one of them asked. An older Marine named Corporal answered. She had served on 3 different ships and seen actual combat. "Win? Maybe, maybe not, but we'll give them a fight they'll never forget." "Why do you think they're doing this?" asked. Why destroy the?" Shrugged. "Because they can, because they're stronger, because they think might makes right." She looked around at the young faces. "That's why we have to stop them. Someone has to show them they're wrong." Lieutenant spent her time studying everything she could find about tactics. There wasn't much information. The Empire rarely fought anyone who could challenge them. They usually just overwhelmed their enemies with superior numbers and technology. But she found something interesting in the historical records. They always fought the same way. They used overwhelming firepower in coordinated attacks. They never changed their strategy because they never needed to. That might be their weakness. If humanity could do something unexpected, something they hadn't planned for, they might have a chance. She took her findings to Captain. "They are predictable," she explained. "They coordinate everything through a central command ship. If we can identify that ship and take it out, their whole formation falls apart." "Studied the data. That's good work, Lieutenant. We'll use this." Doctor made sure every crew member had updated their medical records and emergency contacts. It was a grim task, but necessary. Someone needed to know who to notify if the worst happened. She visited the ship's small chapel, where crew members of various faiths came to pray or meditate. She wasn't particularly religious, but she believed in hope. She hoped they would succeed. She hoped most of them would make it home. Chief Menu finished the final tests on his experimental weapons. Everything checked out. The nuclear pulse bombs would work. Whether they would be enough was another question. Admiral spent the final days of the journey writing messages to the families of every crew member in the fleet. Thousands of messages, each one personal. He wanted them to know that he knew their loved ones' names, that they weren't just numbers to him. If he sent people to die, they deserved to be remembered. On the last day of travel, broadcast to the entire fleet. Every ship, every crew member listened. "Tomorrow we arrive at Epsilon Vale," he said. "Tomorrow we meet the Empire. They are stronger than us. They have more ships. They have better technology, but they don't have what we have. They don't have our determination. They don't have our compassion. They don't understand what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself." His voice grew stronger. "We are the Third Fleet of Earth. We travel across the galaxy not for conquest, not for resources, but because someone needed help. Because someone sent a distress call and we answered. Let the Empire learn what that means. Let the galaxy see what humanity stands for." Cheers echoed through every ship. The crew was ready. The fleet dropped out of quantum slip space at the edge of the Epsilon Vale system. Sensors immediately picked up dozens of ships orbiting Prime. War had found them, and they had found war. The Third Fleet emerged from quantum slip space in perfect formation. 63 human warships appeared at the edge of the Epsilon Vale system, their sensors immediately sweeping the area. What they found was horrifying. Prime hung in space, a beautiful blue and green world surrounded by debris fields. The debris was what remained of defense stations and civilian ships. They had been thorough. 80 warships orbited the planet in blockade formation. They were massive vessels, twice the size of human ships, with smooth hulls that seemed to absorb light. Their technology was clearly advanced, built by a civilization that had conquered the stars while humans were still living in caves. On the flagship, War Master studied the approaching human fleet with curiosity rather than concern. He was a veteran commander who had crushed 17 different species. These humans would be no different. "What are these primitives doing here?" he asked his second officer. The officer examined the sensor readings. "Their ships are small, War Master. They use chemical propulsion for maneuvering. Their weapons appear to be kinetic projectiles and primitive missiles. No plasma cannons, no particle beams." Laughed. "They still use bullets. How quaint. Send Battle Group 3 to remove them. This won't take long." 5 cruisers broke formation and moved toward the human fleet. Each cruiser was larger than any human capital ship. Their shields flickered to life, creating a shimmering barrier around each vessel. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain watched the enemy ships approach. His crew was at battle stations, everyone focused and ready. "5 ships coming our way," Lieutenant reported. "They're not bringing their full fleet." "They're arrogant," said. "They think 5 ships are enough. Let's teach them otherwise." He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, hold your fire. Wait until they're in optimal range." The cruisers accelerated, their plasma cannons charging. They had done this 1,000 times before. Approach, fire, destroy. Simple and effective. But the human fleet didn't behave like other species. Instead of fleeing or immediately attacking, they spread out in a pattern they didn't recognize. The human ships used short bursts from their chemical thrusters, moving in unpredictable directions. They fired their plasma cannons. Bright bolts of superheated energy streaked across space. The human ships dodged at the last second, their chemical thrusters firing in rapid bursts. The plasma shots missed. He sat up on his flagship. "What? Fire again." They fired a second volley. Again, the human ships dodged. Their movements were sharp and erratic, impossible for the targeting computers to predict. They had fought dozens of species, but all of them used smooth, predictable engine systems. None of them used crude chemical thrusters that could change direction instantly. "Now," Captain said calmly, "all ships open fire." The human fleet unleashed hell. Fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The projectiles weren't fancy. They didn't use energy or exotic particles. They were just chunks of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The shields had been designed to deflect energy weapons. Plasma, lasers, particle beams. The shields were excellent at dispersing and redirecting energy. but they had never been designed to stop solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The first slug hit a cruiser dead center. The shield flickered and failed. The projectile punched straight through the hull, creating a hole 3 meters wide. The cruiser's interior atmosphere vented into space. More slugs followed. The human ships fired in coordinated volleys, each ship targeting specific points on the enemy vessels. It was like watching a boxer land precise punches, each one doing real damage. One cruiser lost its engines. Another lost weapons control. A third took a slug directly to its power core and exploded, a brief sun appearing in the darkness of space. The remaining 2 cruisers tried to retreat, but the human destroyers moved to cut them off. These smaller ships carried missiles, simple explosive devices that they had forgotten about ago. The missiles weren't sophisticated. They didn't have shields or advanced electronics, but they had powerful warheads and they were fast. One cruiser took 3 missiles to its bridge section and went dark. The last cruiser managed to turn and flee, trailing atmosphere and fuel. The entire engagement lasted 7 minutes. 5 cruisers attacked. Only one escaped, badly damaged. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. On the flagship, War Master stood in shocked silence. His officers looked at each other in confusion. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans were primitive. Their technology was ancient. They should have been easy to defeat. Analysis demanded. His science officer reported, "War Master, their weapons are kinetic-based, solid projectiles. Our shields are optimized for energy dispersal. They're not designed to stop physical matter at those velocities. And their engines. Chemical propulsion. It's inefficient for long-distance travel, but for short bursts, it allows sudden direction changes our targeting systems cannot predict." Felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Uncertainty. These humans were dangerous specifically because they were primitive. They fought with old methods that they had forgotten how to counter. "Bring the full fleet to battle positions," he ordered. "We will crush them with numbers." 80 warships moved into attack formation. This time, there would be no mistakes. Admiral watched the enemy fleet approaching on his tactical display. The odds were terrible, 80 against 63. Each enemy ship was larger and theoretically more powerful. "All ships," he broadcast, "remember your training, stay mobile. Target their command ship if you can identify it, and don't give up. We've come too far to quit now." The space around Prime erupted into battle. They attacked in waves, trying to use their numbers to overwhelm the human positions. But the human fleet fought smart. They used the debris fields for cover. They concentrated fire on single targets, destroying them before moving to the next. They never stayed in one place long enough for to pin them down. Lieutenant, watching the battle unfold from her tactical station, spotted what she was looking for. One ship sat slightly behind the others, coordinating movements. "Captain, I found their command ship," she said, highlighting it on the display. Smiled, "Good work. Relay coordinates to the fleet. All capital ships focus fire on that target." The human dreadnoughts turned in unison and fired everything they had. Missiles, even experimental weapons. The command ship's shields held for almost 10 seconds before collapsing. Slugs tore through its hull. The effect was immediate. The formation fell apart. Ships stopped coordinating. Some continued attacking while others tried to retreat. The organized assault became chaos. But the battle was far from over. Even disorganized, the still had numbers. Human ships began taking damage. The destroyer UES Defiant took a direct hit from a plasma cannon and broke apart. The cruiser UES Challenger lost half its crew when an explosion tore through its port side. In the Indomitable's medical bay, Doctor and her team worked frantically to save wounded crew members. Injuries came in faster than they could treat them. Burns from electrical fires. Broken bones from explosive decompression. Worse. "We need more hands," shouted. "Get anyone with medical training down here now." Chief Menu, working in engineering to keep the ship running, made a decision. "Launch the pulse bombs," he ordered his team. "Let's see if this works." The Indomitable released 3 nuclear pulse weapons. They looked like ordinary missiles, which was exactly the point. They didn't take them seriously. The bombs detonated near a cluster of ships. The explosions weren't like normal nuclear weapons. They created pulses of electromagnetic energy that fried electronics and overloaded shields. 3 cruisers went dark, their systems completely disabled. "It worked," Menu laughed. "It actually worked." The battle raged for 3 hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Space filled with debris and frozen bodies. But slowly, impossibly, the humans began winning. They had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that refused to follow the rules. An enemy that used primitive weapons in clever ways. An enemy that kept fighting even when damaged. Finally, War Master made a decision he had never made before. "All ships, retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup." The fleet, leaving 30 of their ships destroyed or disabled behind. They had never lost a battle before. The human fleet didn't pursue. They couldn't. 11 ships had been destroyed. Most of the remaining vessels were damaged. 4,000 crew members were dead. Many more were wounded. But they had won. They had fought the Empire and won. On Prime, the Resistance watched in amazement. Keeper Wren sent a message to the human fleet. "Thank you, you came. You actually came." Admiral, exhausted and grief-stricken over the losses, responded, "We're not done yet. We're coming down to help you." With the fleet driven back, Admiral ordered landing operations to begin. The human ships were damaged but functional. More importantly, the people below needed help immediately. Captain led the ground force personally. He took 2,000 Marines and support personnel in transport ships, heading toward the coordinates Keeper Wren had provided. Major commanded the Marine force, a tough woman who had fought in border conflicts for 15 years. As the transports descended through Prime's atmosphere, looked out at the planet below, it should have been beautiful. He could see oceans, forests, and mountains. But he also saw the scars of war, burned areas where forests had been, craters where cities had stood, smoke rising from multiple locations. The transports landed outside what remained of the capital city. The buildings were made of crystal and light, architecture unlike anything humans had created. But many of the structures were broken, shattered like glass. People emerged cautiously from hiding places, was struck by their appearance. They were roughly humanoid but taller and thinner. Their skin had a faint luminescence that changed colors. Right now, most of them glowed with shades of blue and purple. Translator identified these colors as fear and uncertainty. An elderly approached. Her skin showed more colors than the others, patterns that seemed to indicate wisdom and age. "I am Elder," she said in Universal Standard. "You are the humans who answered our call." Removed his helmet. He wanted them to see his face, to see he was real. "I am captain of the United Earth Space Forces. We came as fast as we could." Elder studied him with large, expressive eyes. "Forgive me for asking, but why? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you. Why would you fight the Empire for strangers?" "Because you asked for help," said simply. "That's enough." Tears formed in Elder's eyes. Her skin flickered with golden light, which the translator identified as gratitude and hope. Keeper Wren, the resistance leader from the transmission, arrived with other fighters. He was younger than Elder, his skin showing fierce red patterns that meant determination and anger. "They have a prison complex 300 kilometers south," Wren explained, showing a map on a portable device. 50,000 of our people are held there. They're being used as fuel. They extract our bioenergy to power their ships." "Felt sick. They're harvesting you while you're alive." "Yes," Wren said quietly. "It is a slow death, very painful. We have tried to free them, but the complex is too well defended." "Show me everything you know about this place," ordered. Doctor set up a medical station in what had been a hospital. The building still stood, though parts of it were damaged. Her team began treating injured immediately. She discovered something fascinating. Biology was different from human biology, but not so different that human medicine couldn't help. Their blood was similar. Their organs served similar functions. She could work with this. A young child was brought in, barely alive. He had been injured in a bombing 3 days ago, worked quickly, using both human and improvised medical techniques. After 2 hours of surgery, the child stabilized. Elder watched the entire procedure. When it was over, she took hands. "You saved him. You didn't have to, but you did." "Of course I did," said confused. "He's a child. He needed help." Elder's skin glowed with that golden light again. "They would have left him to die. They said we were not worth the effort to save. But you, a stranger from across the galaxy, spent hours saving one child." Squeezed the elder's hands. "Every life matters. That's what humans believe." Major studied the intelligence on the prison complex. It was bad. The facility was built into the side of a mountain, with heavy defenses and a garrison of shock troops. These weren't regular soldiers. They were elite warriors, enhanced with technology and training. They had conquered dozens of worlds with troops like these. They were stronger, faster, and better equipped than human Marines. But had something they didn't. She had Marines who believed in what they were fighting for. She gathered her squad leaders. "This is going to be ugly," she told them honestly. "The enemy is tough. We're going to take casualties, but those are our people in there now." "Our people, Major," one squad leader asked. "There." Looked at him. "They asked for help and we came. That makes them our people. Any questions?" There were no questions. The assault force moved out at dawn. 2,000 human Marines and 500 resistance fighters. They traveled in transports and ground vehicles, moving quickly across Prime's terrain. The prison complex was even more intimidating up close. It was a massive structure of dark metal built into a mountainside. Guard towers dotted the perimeter. Energy barriers surrounded the entire facility. Keeper Wren and his fighters knew the territory. They guided the humans through hidden paths, avoiding patrols. But eventually, they had to attack directly. Major gave the signal. Human artillery fired from positions 2 kilometers away. The shells weren't fancy, just high-explosive rounds, but they were effective. The first volley destroyed 3 guard towers. Alarms blared throughout the complex. Shock troops rushed to defensive positions. They were impressive soldiers, wearing powered armor that made them look like monsters. Each one carried plasma weapons capable of burning through steel. The human Marines attacked from multiple directions. They used cover, worked in teams, and fought with a desperation they hadn't expected. Private, the young Marine who had been nervous on the ship, found himself face to face with a shock trooper. The alien was bigger, stronger, and better equipped. Should have died. But he remembered what Captain had said. Trust your training, trust your crew. Dodged the plasma blast and threw a grenade. The explosion didn't penetrate the armor, but it knocked the trooper off balance. Fired together, concentrated shots hitting the same spot on the armor until it failed. The battle raged for hours. The shock troops were good, but they had never fought humans before. They had never fought soldiers who carried wounded comrades under fire, who shared their last ammunition, who kept fighting even when injured. The resistance fighters fought alongside the humans. They knew the facility's layout, could guide Marines through service tunnels and hidden passages. Keeper Wren personally led a team to disable the energy barriers. Slowly, section by section, the prison complex fell. Major reached the extraction facilities where prisoners were being held. What she saw there would haunt her forever. Thousands of people connected to machines, their bioenergy being drained away. Many were already dead. Others were dying. "Get medical teams here now," she shouted into her radio, "and get these people disconnected." Doctor arrived with her medical teams. They worked frantically to disconnect prisoners from the extraction machines without killing them. It was delicate work. Many were too far gone to save, but many could be rescued if they worked fast enough. A woman, barely conscious, grabbed his hand. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because it's right," answered. "Just hold on, we're getting you out." The final stronghold was the command center deep inside the mountain. The shock troop commander, a massive alien named On, had barricaded himself with his best soldiers. Captain, who had joined the assault, approached the barricade. He called out in Universal Standard, "On, your position is lost. Surrender and your soldiers will be treated as prisoners of war." On's laughter echoed through the corridors. "Surrender to primitives, never." "Then we're coming through," warned. The final assault was brutal. The fought with the desperation of cornered animals, but the humans fought with purpose. They fought for the 50,000 prisoners being freed behind them. When On finally fell, the battle was over. The prison complex was liberated. 50,000 prisoners were freed. Not all of them would survive. Many were too weak, too damaged, but most would live. They stumbled out of the complex into sunlight, seeing the sky for the first time in months or years. Elder walked through the freed prisoners with Captain. She watched as human medics treated wounded. She watched as human soldiers shared their food rations with starving prisoners. She watched as these strange aliens from Earth showed more compassion than she had thought possible. "I need to understand," she said too. "Your people lost thousands fighting in space. You're losing more here on the ground. You gain nothing from this. Why do you keep fighting for us?" Looked at the freed prisoners, at the children reuniting with parents, at families holding each other. "Because this is what we do," he said. "Humans help. We don't always do it perfectly. We make mistakes. But when someone calls for help, we answer." Elder's skin glowed bright gold. She made a gesture that's translator identified as a sacred promise. "The people will never forget this. You came when no one else would. You fought when you had no reason to. You are forever our friends." The celebration was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected new ships entering the system. Many ships. The Empire had sent reinforcements. 300 warships were coming. The news spread through the human fleet like ice water. 300 ships were coming. The sensor readings were clear. It was a full Imperial armada, the kind of force the Empire used to destroy entire civilizations. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the tactical display. His fleet had 52 ships remaining after the first battle. Most of them were damaged. Against 300 fresh enemy vessels, they had no chance. The logical choice was clear. Evacuate as many as possible and retreat. Save what they could and live to fight another day. It was what any reasonable commander would do. But looked at the planet below. Millions of still lived there. The freed prisoners from the complex. The children, the families. If the humans left, they would finish what they started. He called an emergency meeting of all ship captains. Every commander attended via video link, their faces grim. "You've all seen the sensor data," began. 300 ships. They'll arrive in 72 hours. We cannot defeat that force. The captains waited. They knew there was more. "The Council on Earth is ordering us to evacuate and retreat," continued. "We can take perhaps 50,000 with us, maybe more if we overload the ships, but millions will be left behind." The captain spoke first. "Admiral, what's your recommendation?" Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was firm. "I recommend we stay. We fortify our positions. We prepare every defense we have. And when those 300 ships arrive, we make them pay for every meter of space they take." "That's suicide," one captain said. "Maybe," agreed. "But it's the right thing to do. Those people down there trusted us. They believed us when we said we came to help. I won't abandon them now." Another captain raised his hand. "Admiral, I need to be clear about something. If we do this, most of us aren't going home. You understand that?" "I do." "Then I'm in," the captain said. "Let's make it count." One by one, every captain voted to stay. Not because they thought they could win, but because leaving was unthinkable. The next 72 hours were frantic preparation. Chief Menu worked miracles in the Indomitable's engineering bay. He stripped parts from damaged ships to repair functional ones. He built more pulse bombs. He even managed to install weapons on old orbital stations that had been considered beyond repair. Lieutenant coordinated the defensive grid. She positioned the human ships in overlapping fields of fire. She programmed the automated defense satellites. She studied every recording of tactics they had, looking for any weakness to exploit. Doctor prepared the medical facilities for what was coming. She trained volunteers in basic first aid. She stockpiled supplies. She tried not to think about how inadequate it would all be. On the planet, Major worked with the resistance to prepare ground defenses. If the broke through the fleet, they would still face a fight on the surface. The learned quickly. They had been peaceful people, but suffering had taught them how to fight. Captain walked through his ship talking to the crew. Many of them were afraid. All of them were determined. A private approached him. "Captain, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For giving us a chance to do something that matters. I joined the military because I wanted to protect people. Tomorrow, that's what we're doing." Put his hand on the young man's shoulder. "You're a good Marine. Whatever happens tomorrow, be proud of that." Elder came to the Human Command Center with Keeper Wren. They had a proposal. "Our people want to fight alongside you," said. "We have civilian ships. They are not warships, but they can be equipped with weapons. We have volunteers willing to crew them." Admiral started to refuse. He didn't want civilian casualties, but Keeper Wren interrupted. "With respect, Admiral, they are already casualties. We'll kill them anyway. At least this way they die fighting for their world. Please, let us stand with you." Looked at the elder. Her skin showed colors he now recognized: determination, pride, courage. "Equip the ships," he said. "Welcome to the fleet." On the second day of preparation, recorded a message to be sent to Earth. It would take weeks to arrive, but he wanted his superiors to understand. "By the time you receive this, the battle will be over. I know the Council ordered retreat. I know I'm disobeying direct orders, but I've seen what to do. I've seen the prison camps, the extraction facilities, the genocide, and I've seen the people. They're good people. They deserve better than extermination. So we're staying. We're going to fight. And we're going to make the Empire understand that humanity will not stand by while innocents die. Whatever happens, I'm proud of this fleet. I'm proud of what we've done here. Tell our families we died doing something that mattered." On the third day, the Armada arrived. 300 ships emerged from hyperspace, a wall of vessels that blocked out the stars. They formed up in perfect attack formations, their hulls gleaming with threat. The human fleet looked tiny by comparison. 52 damaged warships and 30 hastily armed civilian vessels against the might of an empire. Imperial commander, leader of the Armada, opened a communication channel. His image appeared on every human ship's screen. He was enormous, even for his face cruel and arrogant. "Human fleet," he said in Universal Standard. "You have interfered with operations. You have destroyed our property. You will surrender immediately or be annihilated." Admiral responded. He kept his voice calm and clear. "This is Admiral of the United Earth Third Fleet. The people are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." Laughed. "You have less than 100 ships. I have 300. This is not bravery. This is stupidity." "Maybe," agreed. "But it's our stupidity. Come and take what you want if you can." The channel closed, gave the order. "All ships attack, destroy them all." The armada surged forward like a tidal wave. The human fleet opened fire first. Every weapon they had, firing in coordinated volleys. Missiles, pulse bombs, even improvised explosives. The space between the fleets filled with projectiles and energy. The returned fire. Plasma cannons lit up the darkness. The battle began. It was hell. They attacked in massive waves, overwhelming the human defenses through sheer numbers. Human ships took terrible damage. The destroyer UES Courage was cut in half by concentrated plasma fire. The cruiser UES Phoenix lost all power and drifted helplessly. But the humans fought back with everything they had. They used the debris fields for cover. They concentrated fire on single targets. And most importantly, they refused to break. Captain on the Indomitable personally coordinated the defense. His ship was the fleet's strongest, and he used it like a shield, placing it between the enemy and weaker vessels. "Engineering, I need more power to the forward guns," he shouted. Chief Menu's voice came back strained. "Captain, we're running on backup systems. The main reactor took a hit." "I don't care. Give me what you've got." The Indomitables continued firing. Each shot destroyed or damaged a ship, but there were so many of them. Lieutenant watched the tactical display with growing despair. They were killing ships, yes, but not fast enough. The enemy had hundreds of vessels. They could afford losses. The humans couldn't. "Captain, at this rate, we'll be overwhelmed in 20 minutes, she reported. "Then we make those 20 minutes count," replied. In the medical bay, Doctor worked frantically to save wounded crew members. Injuries came faster than she could treat them. Explosion victims, burns, decompression injuries. She worked until her hands shook with exhaustion. Private manning a weapons station saw his entire squad get killed when a plasma blast penetrated their section. He kept firing anyway, tears streaming down his face. For his friends, for the people below, for everything that mattered. Major, on the planet's surface, watched the battle in orbit through telescopes. She could see the explosions, the ships dying. She knew they were losing. "Prepare ground defenses," she ordered. "When they come down here, we'll be ready." On the flagship, Imperial Commander watched the battle with growing frustration. Yes, his fleet was winning, But the casualties were unacceptable. He had lost 50 ships. 50. Against a force that should have been crushed in minutes. These humans fought like demons. Even damaged, even dying, they kept fighting. Their ships refused to surrender even when all weapons were destroyed. He had never seen anything like it. "Increase attack intensity," he ordered. "I want them destroyed now." Then something impossible happened. New signatures appeared on the sensors. Lots of them. Quantum slip portals opened across the system. Ships emerged. Human ships, hundreds of them. Every available vessel from Earth and the colonies had jumped to Epsilon Vale. Civilian transports armed with improvised weapons. Mining ships carrying explosive charges. Even luxury yachts equipped with whatever guns people could find. When the Third Fleet's journey had become public knowledge back home, ordinary people had demanded to help. Ship owners volunteered their vessels. Retired military personnel came back to service. Civilians with no combat training signed up anyway. Earth had sent everything they had. Admiral stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Tears formed in his eyes. "They came," he whispered. "They all came." The reinforcements weren't military vessels. They weren't well armed. But there were so many of them, and they came in fighting. A civilian transport ship rammed a cruiser, its captain broadcasting, "For Earth." Before the explosion consumed both vessels. As confidence finally cracked, his fleet was taking massive casualties. The humans just kept coming. Wave after wave, fighting with a fury he couldn't understand. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to hyperspace jump distance." The Armada, they had lost over half their ships. The survivors fled into hyperspace, leaving the system. The humans had won. Impossibly, incredibly, they had won. The battle was over. The human fleet was shattered. Less than 20 original Third Fleet ships remained functional. The reinforcements had taken terrible losses. Thousands of people had died. But Prime was safe. Admiral broadcast to all ships, "This is Admiral, the enemy has retreated, Prime is secure. You all fought with incredible bravery today, rest now. You've earned it." On the planet, the people watched the sky as debris from the battle fell like shooting stars. They had been saved. Against all odds, these strange humans from across the galaxy had saved them. Elder stood with Captain, watching the display. "Your people sacrificed so much for us. We can never repay this debt." "You don't owe us anything," said exhausted. "We did what needed to be done." "Why?" she asked again. "Please, I must understand. Why did you do this?" Looked at her. "Because someone sent a distress call, and humans answer distress calls. That's who we are." 6 months later, the Formally joined an alliance with humanity. They shared their advanced technology in gratitude. Together, they began rebuilding. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under the Empire began reaching out to Earth, not asking for help this time, but offering alliance. The humans who answered one distress call had started a revolution. Captain, now Admiral, stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Indomitable. Long-range sensors had detected new distress signals from distant sectors. The First Fleet was preparing to respond. Elder, now serving as ambassador to Earth, asked him one final question. Will you always answer these calls, even when it's dangerous? Smiled, always, because that's what humans do. The Indomitable engaged its quantum slip drive and vanished into the stars. There were more people out there who needed help. And humanity would answer.